Come on, Livingston. We gotta go on and on and on. Together we can make it. We gotta go on and on and on. Come on, Livingston.
Knocks it through. Mullen bursting into the box. Josh Mullen.
Together we can make it.
Mullen's ball across, it's turned in! It's Pittman who's got it! Livingston leads!
Road is long.
Can they get the ball back in? O'Brien.
Lead! And Livingston have the lead!
Man, can score.
If we march together.
The full-time whistle blows and David Hayes celebrates! And the Livingston fans join in exultation.
Come on, Livingston.
Livingston have the lead against Rangers, and they are certainly rising to a few occasions on their return to the top flight in Scotland.
Come on, Livingston. We gotta go.
Hello, you're listening to Talk Livi, the podcast dedicated to West Lothian's finest football team, Livingston Football Club, and proudly sponsored by Starnet Apparel. My name is Angus, and today I'm joined by Euan. Euan, just fresh off the plane from Budapest, following a not so great week for us. Are you feeling rejuvenated from your little stint away from this dreaded island?
Yeah, I would highly recommend Budapest to anyone who's looking for a wee city break. So me and Shannon got a few days away, and it was brilliant, to be totally honest with you. Beautiful, beautiful city, and as I say, I would recommend highly to anyone. But yeah, very, very different and contrasting to the Saturday afternoon, which was spent at McDermott Park in Tractorland, watching ourselves stare relegation even further in the face. So yeah, I was quite glad to be getting away for a few days to forget about that. But yeah, it wasn't a great week last week for all Livy teams. We'll come on to talk about that as well. But what about yourself, mate? How you doing?
Yeah, for some reason I seem to have been battling a little bit of a cold last week, which is weird because it started to get warmer. So if I start coughing and spluttering, mind your own business.
If it makes you feel better, both me and Shannon felt crap for a couple of days each in Budapest.
That definitely makes me feel so much better. And I'm so happy that you told me that. But as always, you can search for Talk Livy on your preferred podcast streaming sites where you can follow or subscribe so you don't miss an episode. You can also catch all our episodes on there that we've done to date.
We'll kick the episode off by discussing our midweek defeat to Motherwell before a disappointing draw in Perth that leaves the Lions staring relegation in the face.
Our women's side were in action, but their recent slump in form continued with a home defeat to Gartcairn.
And finally, we look ahead to our trip to Celtic Park for our first Scottish Cup quarter-final in 19 years. Can the Lions cause an unlikely upset? And Angus's face would suggest not.
The Lions faced two more crucial games in the fight to avoid relegation, but it proved to be a dismal week, starting with a 3-1 defeat against Motherwell. Ewan, this one was on the Sky Sports cameras. Wasn't a particularly good second half performance, I guess is the best way to put it.
Yeah, it all started off so rosy, didn't it? Taking the lead inside the first few minutes. I think it was 3 minutes on the clock when Tete Yengi notched up his fourth goal since arriving in January. Decent build up for the goal as well. Jason Hope played a decent ball between the lines to Yengi. Yengi knocks the ball back into Anderson. Anderson plays in Mackay, and obviously the kind of challenge results in the ball breaking to Tete Yengi, who strokes it home. And it's, as you say, off to an absolute flyer in the game, but it looked like we set up with almost what looked like a genuine 4-4-2 with Carson and Holt sitting with Nubly, Mackay either side of Yengi and Anderson. So you can't say that we didn't try and go for the game in terms of how we set up for it. But, you know, Motherwell had a couple of really good chances in that first half, both falling to Bevis Mugabe. He had a header that he glanced just wide. We then had a glaring opportunity to go 2-0 up, which I think would really change the context of the game. Newbley, decent ball to the back post, which Yengi's not managed to work Liam Kelly from. He's ended up hitting the side netting at the back post. As I mentioned, Motherwell still had a couple of opportunities. Blair Spittle had an effort which was deflected over, and Mugabe had a header which Jamal George has made a decent save from. But the second half, the goals are awful. Defensively, really, really, really poor. Sam Nicholson with the equaliser initially, it's a free header inside your 18-yard box. There's no pressure on the cross from Newbley towards O'Donnell. And Nicholson's, it's not even like he's ran off a man. He's just walked into the 18-yard box and got acres of space to go and head that ball home. Right at the start of the second half, it kind of puts any game plan out the window. And again, it's this lack of game management and recognising a danger. We really struggled with crosses into our box during that game. And Blair Spittle's goal, again, there's no pressure on the ball. David Carson's let Blair Spittle, and again, I used the term in my notes here, run off him. He just walks into the middle of the 18-yard box. And don't get me wrong, it's a superb finish by Blair Spittle. Great technique on the half volley. But no disrespect to David Carson here, but as a sitting midfield player, you need to recognise that danger if that ball breaks to the edge of your box. And it's the exact same for the third goal as well. I think it's Jack Vale, the boy that got the third goal. Shinnie's a bit soft in that initial 50-50. Again, David Carson, he's not recognising the danger, and Jack Vale's just walked into the 18-yard box and found himself with a free header. It's just a lack of ownership, a lack of game management, once again, that's followed on from that Ross County game. And we've just conceded 3 really, really soft goals in the game. And you want to make teams work for goals, and I kind of get this feeling that we've not got the balance right at all this season. The first half of the season we spent going so overly defensive and reliant on a clean sheet, and then having no way of getting back in a game if that game plan didn't go to plan. Now it seems like we're so wide open and we're leaking goals, albeit looking like we can actually threaten and score goals ourselves at times in games, but we're conceding really cheap, soft goals from our point of view, and it's just an incredibly frustrating result. And as I say, the goals are just so soft. But I feel Motherwell would come out that game absolutely deserving of the result. I think they dominated the ball for large spells, including the first half. I do think we offered a relative threat on the counter-attack and probably picking the wrong option at times. But yeah, it's just a second half performance, and I know you'll probably come on to talk about we made a change in shape at 1-1, which probably got the crowd worked up a little bit when Dan Mackay came off in particular and going to a back 5. I think that kind of set a kind of change in the atmosphere. Would I be right in saying?
Yeah, definitely. So I think just to touch on that kind of first half performance there, I think that even though Motherwell had like the better share of possession, I think you'd say though that the best chances in that first half still definitely fell to us, and we probably could have taken a bit more of an advantage, maybe a little bit sharper finishing and all of that. But the first half performance, I think, is what we're all kind of looking for. We were stubborn at the back, we were working hard for each other, and we were posing a great threat. But as you say there, yeah, I can't remember if Motherwell had scored the first goal by the time yet. But yeah, he takes off Dan Mackay, and I believe, was it Sean Kelly?
Yeah.
To bring on Montano and Mikey Devlin. Montano didn't seem fit. Mikey Devlin, that's obviously a very defensive substitution. As soon as that happened, everybody in that stadium knew exactly what was coming. That back five's not worked all season, and with the best part of like 30 minutes to go, we've opted to go for that, and we've just completely shot ourselves in the foot. And one other thing with it as well, so we played that 4-4-2 kind of thing with there. If Joel Newbley's not playing well enough, Joel Newbley's not working hard enough, stop playing him in about 3 different positions before you realise, oh yeah, let's maybe take him off. Played on the wing, Then he ended up playing as like the left wing back for a little bit. Played up front as well. Like the goals come from that down that side on the left, where Newbley was operating. Stephen O'Donnell's got so much time to bring the ball down, and Stephen O'Donnell's had, if you ask most fans, even Motherwell fans, he's had a horrendous season. There's a clip like 2 weeks ago where Alan Forrest goes up for a header and completely bodies him out the way. Joel Newbley completely sold himself there, and that's where the frustration comes from the fans regarding Joel, because the effort simply wasn't there against an underperforming player who ended up getting the better of him, and we've persisted with him for another two positions, and then decided to take him off. If he's not playing well, don't play him. Simple as that. And I think there's maybe going to be a little bit of an element in that with the St Johnstone one as well. Like if we're trying to keep a result or anything like that, we don't need him on the park because he's not going to offer anything. And it's, I don't know, like the tactics and substitutions and that in recent weeks have just been absolutely bewildering at times regarding, trying to impact the game. It says a lot when most of the changes that we're making are impacting the game for the opposition, and it makes it easier for them. And that's where the frustration comes from for sure. And it's just at that point, it's just like once you've seen it before, you've seen it a million times, and it just continues to happen. That's where people start to, properly voice their concerns and, well, not their concerns, their outrage at it and stuff like that. But yeah, we made Motherwell look like, world beaters in that second half, and it was really disappointing to see that capitulation. Obviously, Motherwell's result of the weekend against Rangers makes it look, not so bad in comparison, but that second half performance is just so poor considering we done so well to get ourselves in that good position.
And we talked about it off the back of the Ross County game that we needed a quick start in the game. We had to go on the front foot, and it was a kind of fell into that bracket of another must-win game for us. And we got that. We got that with that third minute goal. And you're almost hoping the team kick on from that. But it's that going into the shell almost, and just that constant fear of the worst. And I don't think it takes an awful lot for us to start fearing the worst in our management team at this moment in time. And it's always cautious. See, at this point in the season, in the position we're in, we can't just keep going on the defensive all the time. There comes up, you need to win games of football. And the decisions that we seem to be making constantly in games, and we'll come on to this in the St Johnstone game, which is another prime example of it, but you're giving the opposition a chance to get back in the game with the changes that we're making instead of trying to hurt them. And it's just so disappointing. As you said, that the manner of the 3 goals is just, to put it bluntly, pathetic. It really is. It's powder puff defending, and there's no other way you can get around it. It's just 3 goals where 3 players have had acres of space in the middle of your 18-yard box to go and finish it off. Motherwell haven't even had to work for those goals. They really haven't.
Well, in saying that, Motherwell did thoroughly deserve that 3 points, but as you're kind of saying, we have not made it difficult for them in that second half, and yeah, that's ultimately where the frustrations are coming from, because you look at that first half performance and, I think everybody was kind of content with what's going on. We were offering something on the attack and everything like that, and we were putting our bodies in the line in order to try and, deny them any opportunities. But yeah, as soon as we make those changes to go more defensive, could probably count the amount of good defenders we've got on one hand right now. Never mind filling up the pitch with them. And, that might be harsh to say, but the evidence is there. The proof's there. So I don't know how many more games against these teams kind of around us in the table we're supposed to take where we're somewhat being afraid to kind of properly go to them. But yeah, I guess that leads nicely on to, another game where we had the exact kind of same scenario where playing a team close to us in the league, a good chance to not only claw points back on, the teams above us, but to, maybe drag them closer to us, maybe put a little bit of doubt in them. Went to St Johnstone, and in all honesty, not a great game of football at all. I don't think there's an abundance of chances in that created in this one. I think that we did have, in that first half, probably the better share of possession and kind of threatened a bit more than they did. Again, like St Johnstone aren't anything special. Like, I think that you've got to go to look there and think that you can maybe pick up some points. We of course do take the lead, corner kick. Mikey Devlin flicks it on, and Shinnie acts pretty well to flick it into the back of the net. And I think that you're looking from there, right? We've got that lead there. Can we go and kick on? But what happened is what has happened for the most part, where we've kind of sat back with the second half and we've not really kind of went to capitalise on that. We've not kind of put as much pressure on them to try and get a second goal. We've eventually then turned back to what we usually do, back five, baffling substitution. We talked about the 3 goals from the Motherwell game there. I think that I was closer to Nicky Clark than any of our defenders were for that header. And we were up at the
To be
outside
clear, Angus
stadium.
was in the back row of the away section, just
Exactly.
for context there.
Like, how, again, we've conceded the exact same goal. A cross comes in, and like, Nicky Clark is a good 7-10 yards away from any player near him, either side. And it's like, how are we in the 88th minute or something like that? And we've got 5 defenders on, and none of them are anywhere near this player here. It's just so infuriating. Like, as soon as that cross came in, you're just like, why is he so free? Heads it in, 1-1. And yeah, that was all hopes of those 3 points gone, especially considering the fact that we opted to decide to not go for our last roll of the dice and bring on our top goal scorer this season, Bruce Anderson, who scored 2 goals last weekend, who may have more of a chance of getting a goal. Stephen Kelly, again, I mean, I think that we just keep on repeating ourselves. Euan doesn't get in the park. Penny for their thoughts at this time, because that's incredible that they're not getting on the park at this moment in time. I don't think that it's necessarily fair as well regarding their performances in the kind of recent times that they've been playing. The Motherwell game, I think Bruce was very, very worthy of keeping a place and stuff like that. But we go to St Johnstone, a must-win game. Don't get any minutes at all. Yeah, I'm just scunnered by that. And saying that, we do have a good chance to win it late on. Teddy Ing, he's got to get his head up and pass the ball back to Jamie Brandon, who will likely have a tap in. The big man's not got the ball at his feet, or he's overthought it or tried to go himself, and we've squandered a massive opportunity. So I guess as we bemoan tactics and that at times, that is genuine poor decision making from the player on the park, and ultimately could have been the difference in the end.
Yeah, I mean, looking at the starting 11, it looked like a back 4, certainly for the most part. Nottingham, Devlin, Oberlai and Kelly playing as a back 4. With kind of Carson and Holt sitting in front of that, Shinnie playing as a number 10. I actually didn't think Andrew Shinnie had his best game with the ball, but I think he had a bit of a job to do in terms of maybe marshalling the boy Phillips, who kind of dictates a little bit in terms of the tempo of the game, in terms of getting his foot on the ball for St Johnstone, and I think he actually did a relatively good job kind of marshalling him. Montano played out on the left-hand side, and Mackay and Yengi through the middle up top, and I actually thought we started the game okay. As you say, it wasn't a game full of quality, and the pitch kind of does make it difficult, but I do think we tried to play in the right areas in the first half, and I think on the pace of the first half, I think we probably edged the game. And I think we looked pretty comfortable, and we do take the lead through Andrew Shinnie, corner in from Sean Kelly. It's a good flick on from Mikey Devlin, and Andrew Shinnie's there, kind of flicks it in. It's actually quite a neat finish by Shinnie. That gets us 1-0 up, albeit St Johnstone have a glaring opportunity right before the break with Nicky Clark with a free header. But other than that, St Johnstone had done nothing in the game. Absolutely nothing in the game. And I would go as far as to saying this is one of the worst St Johnstone teams I've seen. since we've been back in the top flight in a long, long time. This isn't me. The fact is that team's like, what was it, 11 points clear of us? They're significantly clear of us. And as I say,
we've not beat them at all this season. All 3 games have been pretty crap draws.
exactly. And second half, I still think we created the better opportunities. Dan Mackay had an effort which forced Mitov into a save. He's just done enough to force it far enough wide. Montano's then had an effort that's come through a load of bodies, which Mitos shown safe hands with and held. But this is where we start going into this shell and looking at how do we shore the game up. That game was there for the taking. If I go back a few months to Tony Docherty's Dundee side coming to us, an absolute nothing game, and he's been ruthless and going, you know what, that game is there for the taking. Our manager had to be ruthless on Saturday. He brings on Curtis Guthrie, and it's about let's get the ball up to the big man, hold it up there, and get us up there. There was acres of space in behind for somebody like Bruce Anderson to go and stretch the game. St Johnstone are needing to commit more bodies to get back in the game. A positive substitution. You can still make a positive substitution at being 1-0 up and try to see the game out. You're giving us a better threat with Bruce. And there's a great opportunity for Curtis Guthrie where he gets in behind and his first thought is to go wide with the ball. That's the sign of a guy who doesn't score a lot of goals. Whilst Bruce, your most natural finisher at the club, I bet Bruce makes more of that opportunity. And I know Bruce has passed up opportunities in previous weeks, but he's probably feeling a little bit more confident in front of goal. He's got 2 goals the week before. He's been involved in the goal against Motherwell. He's probably feeling a little bit better about himself. So I reckon he tests Mitov at the very minimum with that opportunity. But we gradually get deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper and just invite St Johnstone onto us again and again and again and again. And all the substitutions, Newbley comes on. Again, it's that idea to get the ball up to the big man and hold it up.
But he's not even breaking though. When we get the ball, he's not bursting a gut to get forward to exploit that kind of space, and he's not bursting a gut to go and get to a man when the ball goes to them. Again, what a shock the cross comes in from that kind of side. What's the point of bringing him on? It just seems as if it's like an obligation at this point to kind of play him, and it's just like, if we're going to like pack it up, then why are you bringing on somebody who's not going to work nearly as hard, or that's not his game? Like, if we're relying on that, at the end of the day, Euan, is it just coming down to the fact that he's bloody tall and we're worried about set pieces still?
And the irony being you're bringing him on because he's tall to defend crosses into your box, and we've been absolutely abysmal at defending him in this week. That makes it even more laughable. And as I say, we keep getting deeper and deeper. At this point, Christian Montano's had to come off. He'd moved to left back because Devlin had come off injured earlier in the game. Kelly had moved in one to centre back. Montano's then come off. And then even just that substitution alone is baffling. Sangari goes to left back, who's a midfielder. Jamie Brandon, who is a full back and has stepped in at left back for a few games previously, has gone in, played as a number 10. And don't get me wrong, Jamie actually looked pretty decent on the ball, and I've said that in previous weeks, but it's just, where's the thought?
Yeah.
What's the thought process in that substitution? I just don't understand it. I really, really don't. And
meanwhile, Stephen Kelly, our best number 10, sits on the bench. Why wasn't that changed? Not Brandon and Kelly?
Yeah, exactly. And then we go and concede that goal. We spoke about it. Who's St Johnstone's most creative player? It's Graham Carey. We give him acres of time to go and shove a ball into the box. Who's probably their biggest goal threat up top? Nicky Clark's probably up there in terms of St Johnstone's squad. And you give him a free header inside your 18-yard box again. And granted, we've passed up a really good opportunity late on. If Yengi lifts his head and just rolls that, it's on to Jamie Brandon on his right foot. It ends up falling to Jason Holt. As much as I love Holt, he's not one for scoring a load of goals. You were never confident when it kind of fell to him on the edge of the box and he blazes it over the bar on his left side. And that's another huge opportunity missed because Ross County go and lose at Easter Road. You've ended up closing the gap to them. You've closed the gap to St Johnstone, and in the end we come out still 6 points adrift off the back of it. And then the manager's coming saying we would take a point at St Johnstone after the game. I don't.
So when are we actually expected to maybe win a game here? Like, or at least attempt to. But I guess, is he maybe saying that because Ross County lost, that we're looking at it in that way, where we're hoping that Ross County are going to lose every single game till the end of the season and we'll just draw our way to safety?
We aren't in a position now where we can just rely on other results. We're relying on other results, but we have to start relying on ourselves to go and pick up points. Here begs the question, Angus, right? I've not brought it up many a time because I've kind of always had this opinion with Davey that Davey would, even if we got relegated, still be in charge if we went down to the Championship. What's your honest opinion on the situation just now? Because I've been very vocal in my support for the manager, but at this moment in time, we're going down with a whimper. And I'd always said if we went down fighting and scrapping, I don't see right now. Next season, we're probably going to be looking at recruiting an entirely new squad for that division in the Championship at this moment in time. Do you think he's the right man?
It's an interesting one because do I think that in the Championship he could get a tune out of a team? Probably so. But this season has just been a disaster. And I do think that there's a lot. Whenever people have asked about the kind of problems at Livingston, we've always been very vocal about how we believe that, and we believe what the manager says in terms of that there's enough quality in the building. So we believe there's enough quality in the building, player personnel wise. We always come onto here and we're talking about tactics or changes and stuff like that. I don't think anybody can really disagree that, you know, the manager's got to take a large bulk of the blame for that. And right now, I'm not too sure. I can't say that. Well, I don't have any hope for this season to be salvaged because I don't think that we're going to go for it. And I think that that's the most damning part of it. As you said there, you would want us to go, if we do go down, you want us to at least fought for it. We've had plenty of opportunities recently to try and claw this back and all of that, but we've been too worried about our things and all of that. The fans would rather us just kind of, you know, continue that first half performance of Motherwell the whole game of way, rather than changing it to, you know, like a back five and stuff like that. Yeah, I think for most of the fans, we're sort of fed up with it, and you know, something has to change. Again, we've always said it. You know, if the manager starts to play a certain way, kind of got that a little bit with the 4-2-3-1, needs to stop overthinking that though, and kind of persist with that and try and go for, you know, a good couple of goals or anything like that. I mean, never mind wins just this season, Ewan. Like, how many times over the last like 5 years have we been in this league that we've won games by like 2-0 and stuff like that? We only won 3 games and all by, you know, just the one goal as well. One of them was 2-0. But it's like, where's that like all gone all of a sudden? Don't know if that's made much sense, but
the way I look at it is, see, when you look back to the players that we lost in the summer, we lost, looking at the more high profile guys that left, you're probably talking Nicky Devlin and Jack Fitzwater were nailed on starters every week. Stefan Omiyonga left Israel, but he was very much in and out the side in that second season.
Somebody who probably should have been utilised more as well, I would say.
You could argue, yeah. But we had a pretty strong midfield unit and you could understand maybe the rotation. So really there you've lost 2 guys who are regulars in your starting 11. That's a team that finished comfortably 8th, just missed out on top 6. Why, how is there such a drastic change in mentality? And I go back to that interview I did with the manager at the start of the season, and there's almost that admitting defeat before a ball's kicked mentality in there. This season's going to be the season we struggle. And see, the more and more you hear these things as a player, do you just start to believe it? You just start to believe, yeah, we will struggle this year. yeah, we are going to struggle. The more negativity and more negative comments that you hear, and it's almost just set in and it's festering at the football club at this moment in time. And I'll give the manager a degree of credit, right? We spoke about it at the turn of the year. The mentality had to shift in terms of how we were playing and how we were setting up. And he has made a change. Most weeks we have gone to a 4-2-3-1. I think everyone could admit that it's better suited to the personnel that we've got. But there's still these baffling changes at times, and the very quick shift to we need to sharp shot, we need to be more solid. And I think if we go down to the championship, I think if you get your recruitment right, if you've got a solid defence, two decent wide players and a centre forward, I think you'll be relatively effective in the championship. I don't think it's overly complicated football in the championship, to be brutally honest. If you look at the teams that have been successful this year.
You look at it right now, Ewan, so you've mentioned that they're wide players and strikers. So Bruce Henderson's our top goal scorer, 8 goals this season, can barely get onto the pitch. Joel Newbley's not got a league goal this season. But Curtis Guffrey's got 1, I think.
He's got 2 goals in almost 2 years at the football club.
Stephen Kelly can't get on the pitch enough. I think he's not got a goal or assist in the league this year. Look at how much we've stifled our best attacking players. Obviously, Teddy Angus came in, made a little bit more of an impact there. But that's waiting until January until we've started kind of trying to do something. And even then, Bruce still can't get on, still not getting the best out of Joel, not getting Stephen Kelly in the park. Dan Mackay's maybe been one of the players you could probably say he's got a little bit more out of, but that's another aspect of it. People talk about recruitment all the time and all of that. Those players we just listed off just there are all very talented and very credible players. Is the manager getting enough out of them? And if not, can somebody else get more out of them?
That's the question to be asked. But again, I go back to some comments that have been made on Twitter by our chairman and the likes of John Ward coming out and saying comments like, well, if Davy leaves, I leave. Where does the loyalty lie in terms of the football club in that instance? Is the loyalty towards Davy rather than the football club? And that would be interesting to pose that sort of question to John at some point. But there's so many, as I say, there's something just festering at the football club just now, and the atmosphere is toxic, to be honest. It just appears that
it just doesn't seem as if anything's being done right now. In terms of the playing stuff, like, we all know how many people are working hard behind the scenes and everything like that. But it does seem as if there is an element right now where, I don't know, there's like as you said, is the loyalty towards the manager more so than anything, and it's stifling us. We're suffering massively because of that. Whether it's like the court cases off the park that are playing a part within that as well. But on the pitch, there's too much stubbornness right now, and it's leading to one thing.
Let's be honest, I think we've almost came back from the dead a couple of times this season and had a little lease of life at points. But I think we are now probably at our last point. That run of games there is, for me, just the nail in the coffin, really. And I'm absolutely convinced we're going down to the championship now. I just don't see where we pick ourselves up off the mat and get going between now and the end of the campaign. But it's a question that needs to be asked. Let's be honest, the run of results is not good enough over not even just this season. The last 18 months has been, the last 12 months, sorry. If you take back to February time last year, the run of results has been horrific, and it's been leading to this. And any other manager in football I would question whether they'd be in a job off the back of this. And by the way, to be very clear, I absolutely appreciate everything Davey has done for the football club, and I have been very vocal in saying he gets the championship next year, even if we went down. But that was off the basis of battling, scrapping, giving everything we've got. And I just feel like we've been very defeatist this year, and it's not what we've come to expect of a Livingston team over the last 5, 6, 7 years. We expect to scrap. We expect to just be fucking horrible to play against, and we've not been that. Look at those 3 goals against Motherwell. Soft as fuck. Look at that goal that we conceded at the weekend there. Soft. I think the question has to be asked, and I just question whether that question is being asked in amongst our building right now. And obviously we know that Livingston's a unique situation. We know Davey is a little bit more than a manager. We're all aware of that. He does a lot round the place. But should that come at the detriment of the football club? Because that's the current state of play right now, to be honest with you. But whew, that was depressing. I come back from a nice holiday and come to talk about that. Cheers for that, Angus. But we'll move on to another depressing segment next. We're delighted to have Strana Apparel as sponsors of Talk Livi. UK based with a Swedish soul, we are Strana. Strana is an independent fashion brand from Scotland who create high quality and stylish attire for on and off the terraces. Inspired by terrace culture, lifestyle and music, all their clothing is designed using quality materials and workmanship to combine the very best style and fit. And all of this means you get a premium quality fashion at affordable prices while enjoying a simple and secure service.
As a bonus for Talk Livi listeners, you can get 10% off your order using the code TalkLivi at the checkout. We'll also have some exclusive giveaways during the season, so keep your eyes peeled on our socials for those too. And thanks to Sterner for sponsoring Talk Livi.
The Lionesses came up against a resurgent Gartcairn on Sunday, and it would be the visitors who came away with a 2-0 victory. Angus, it seems like a right slump in form at this moment in time for our ladies' side. How did they correct it?
It's been a real slug since the winter break. We obviously had a good win against Kilmarnock, but quite a lot of the performances, though, we've quite simply not really deserved anything, and I think that the results have shown that. I don't think we have, too many complaints about it, and I think that, this game was another kind of example of it. We talked about, over this podcast during those run of games that they've conceded a lot of like kind of early-ish goals, and this 15 minutes from the start again was really poor as a unit. Gartcairn were very much more in our faces getting into the attacking third. We had a couple of early warning signs or a couple of poor clearances, and then it happens again and they're able to capitalise on the third or fourth attempt. And yeah, it does seem as if there is like a little bit of a moment just now where we're waiting until that kind of goal goes in to then kick into gear ourselves, because we did actually start to pass the ball about not too bad for the rest of that first half. There was a couple of more patient build-up plays and stuff like that seemed to get us, further into their half, which you just ask the question there, how do we get ourselves out of it? We need to start doing that simply more so, because as I go and talk about the second half, that was completely non-existent. We need to take care of the ball a lot better. We need to quite simply want the ball a lot more. I think that seems to be one of the most damning kind of things right now watching the team, is that it can easily descend into, right, we're going to try like a ball over the top. The rest of that first half showed, we've got players who are more than good enough on the ball technically to, to maintain it, work it into the decent areas and stuff like that. But something happened at half time, which we came out and that kind of disappeared. And I don't know if there was a bit of an element of, I guess, urgency to try and get the ball into their final third to obviously try and call the game back. But I would say that sort of sacrificed the things that we were doing reasonably well. And yeah, that second half, I'm I'm genuinely struggling to think of any real opportunities that we've created. And, Gartcairn are, a decent side. They've had a wee bit of a resurgence and stuff like that, but they're not a team who you're playing at home that you should be really, really struggling to not kind of create anything of note. I think they had a good couple. We had like some corners and stuff like that. The keeper came out and collected well, but I think we'll be really disappointed that we didn't really test them out properly with shots of ourselves and stuff like that. But at the same time, to Gartcairn, they had a much more consistent performance themselves. They did keep the ball a lot better. A player, Amy Hay, who used to play for us, was probably the player of the match, I would say, just for the simplicity of being in the middle of the park, the ball dropping to her, and keeping possession, playing the right passes and stuff like that, not trying to force the ball into certain areas and stuff like that. And I think that we've been kind of missing that for I guess large parts of the season. And I would like to see the midfield and the kind of attack linking up a little bit more, having a little bit more imagination, using a bit more patient build up and stuff like that. Because right now it's just like I think we're just hoping that the ball's going to fall in the right area and somebody's going to have a good strike from a good couple of like 20 yards or something like that, or we're going to get like a corner kick or a set piece and we're going to capitalize from there. But it's been a little while since we've had goals like that. We can't rely on. I think it was a big factor last season, like set pieces and stuff like that. We're not getting the goals from those kind of areas just now because simply defenses are probably a lot better this year. We need to be a little bit more streetwise in that kind of term. But yeah, I think that there's work to be done. I think that we need to kind of be pulling together and just playing more football. In all honesty.
Yeah, and just kind of having a quick glance at the results over the weekend, there was a good opportunity there, given the fact that Boroughmuir dropped points, Kilmarnock dropped points. There was an opportunity to, one, open the gap from fourth place, but also close the gap on second place. And it just seems like a big opportunity missed. But we were talking beforehand, obviously, we mentioned at the start of the season that there was a lot of players came in the building and, there's been a big turnover in the squad. Do you think that it kind of reflects a little bit on the men's team as well, the lack of continuity in terms of team selection? Do you reckon that kind of upsets that little bit of rhythm in terms of how the team's starting games?
Maybe to an extent. I think that we've talked about it quite a lot where there always seems to be like somebody on holiday or like there's kind of other commitments. So there's maybe a little bit more sympathy in regards to that due to, our commitments, players not being able to miss and stuff like that. I think when it comes down to that, it's just, if we're talking about kind of like a slump and kind of form and all of that, we could maybe try some other kind of things. Maybe, I don't know, possibly a change in shape. I know that would further disrupt the continuity, but I think if we'd like to play a little bit more football, would it be better to kind of pack that midfield a little bit more? I think he's tried that a couple more times with like changing from the 3-5-2 to kind of like one of the strikers kind of drops back a little bit further. Yeah, I think that I guess you look at the squad, there's kind of like a core spine that's kind of like there for most kind of weeks. The back three is kind of always the same, which is probably maybe the most solid kind of part of the team, whereas the rest of it can be kind of, thrown up. I think, take for example, the wide areas right now. I know that Beth's had a reasonably pretty good season, but he's also missed a good couple of weeks recently. Lucy's literally just came back from like a broken nose. Sharon Hughes-Leesby's on holidays and that. So yeah, there's probably definitely an element of that kind of not being able to get a good run of form going because of certain personnel being absent, like Zana Dickoff and stuff like that as well. You've not been able to fully get playing like a full season, but yeah, it's a very, very tough game this game that we have, Euan. And honestly, if we're played, we're going to need to sharpen up quickly because that's a team who are definitely going to punish you if you're slack on the ball or if you're giving them the better share of possession.
Yeah, absolutely. They've been very much resurgent and they've actually lifted themselves out of the relegation spots at the bottom of the table. So it just shows you the turnaround that Gartcairn have had off the back of what seemed to be some very good recruitment over the winter break. But it's a break from league duty, which is maybe no bad thing for the girls at this moment in time as they welcome Spartans from SWPL 1 for a Scottish Cup quarter final. It's going to be a very tough game because having been involved at Spartans, they've had a little bit of a bounce since a managerial change as well. So, but it's a good opportunity for the girls to test themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's just a very exciting kind of moment for the club, to be honest. Like we've only been, 3 seasons now in the quarterfinals of the Scottish Cup, rubbing the shoulders with the big teams in the divisions and stuff like that. Obviously, there's going to be more media coverage and stuff like that. So I just hope we give a good account of ourselves, and who knows what can happen in a cup game as well. But yeah, if there's anybody who's unable to make the trip to Parkhead at the weekend, we'll have a game here at 12 o'clock at Tony Macaroni Arena. So it'll be well worth it getting down and cheering the team on. Yeah, I think that Mike and the team would very much appreciate that, and hopefully we've got a good performance to go with it as well. Next up, the Lions travel to Celtic Park for their first Scottish Cup quarter-final in 19 years. Us, not Celtic, of course. Euan, congratulations to Celtic on making it to the semi-finals, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a tough afternoon. I think as soon as the draw was made, what was it, the first tie out the hat when it came to the quarter-final draw? And I think, to put it bluntly, the first thought in pretty much every Livy fan's mind would have been, that's probably a decent windfall for the football club to help plug the budget gap or legal costs that are kind of surrounding the club at this moment in time. You're talking potentially kind of 400,000 circa sort of funds coming into the football club. So in that respect, it's a great cup tie. In terms of the actual football aspect, it's between that and going to Ibrox, the two most difficult ties you could get, and you're hoping for a bit of a miracle. And given our recent performances against the Old Firm, in particular away from home, we've really struggled to lay a glove on them at all. I think the last two games, the 2-0 just before Christmas, and then our 3-0 defeat at Ibrox, I don't think we recorded a shot on goal, and it was a 0 XG. Granted, that's in the league, so it's maybe a slightly different thought process in terms of how you set your team up compared to a one-off cup tie. But I mean, I very much struggle to imagine that we're going to go into this game and go, screw it, let's go for it, let's go all out attack. But there's discontent at Celtic just now. It's clear to see. Celtic Park has not been quite as dominant a fortress for Celtic as it has been in previous seasons. Kilmarnock have gone there and got results, and Johnston have gone there, got results this season. Hearts recently went there and won. And then obviously they slipped up at the weekend there when they had a great opportunity to go back to the top of the table, losing 2-0 against Hearts at Tynecastle. So there is discontent at Celtic, and well, probably similar approach to every time we go there. It'll be a case of trying to get the crowd turning a little bit. Try and get to 20, 25 minutes, half-hour mark, and keep the game as tight as possible at 0-0, and the punters are going to start getting disgruntled, and that's got to be the game plan essentially for this cup tie. And then as the longer you can keep yourself in the game, it gives you an opportunity to maybe go for it a little bit more. But regardless of what team Celtic put out, it's going to be full of quality, to put it that way. Even the lad they've brought in, Adam Ida from Norwich, has hit the ground running and has already bagged a few goals. And you need to just be so wary. Granted, Celtic are in there's a bit of disgruntlement with Rodgers, a bit of disgruntlement despite the alarming success Celtic have had as a football club over the last decade. But look at the game last week against Dundee, who have had a very good season so far, and they go and knock 7 past them. 6-0 at half time. That's what you're up against with Celtic. They're more than capable of turning any team over at a canter. And that kind of, as I say, trying to avoid conceding an early goal, just age your cause a little bit, but you're always going to be very much up against it, against a team with just immense quality and resources that Celtic have in comparison to ourselves. But it is the case, it is a one-off cup tie, and I feel like there's going to come a point in the game where we're going to have to maybe have a little bit of a go and try and open up a little bit, because You're not going to win a cup tie by being all out defence, camping on your 18-yard line and sitting in hope. So there is going to have to come a point in the game where we're going to have to be brave and have a little bit of a go and commit a few more bodies forward. And yeah, I think it's going to be a very, very difficult afternoon. And I can't see anything else other than a Celtic result. But as long as we go there and give a reasonable account of ourselves and have a little bit of a go, to win the cup tie at some points in the game, I'd be fairly content.
I don't care, Ewan. Like, it's that stage again. Like, I've already accepted the worst. Yeah, I'm just no arse about this game.
Is that
I
your
think,
entire review of it?
yeah, honestly, I'm just like Celtic Park, Celtic away. Does it get any worse than that when you're in bad form? Nah, I'm all right, thanks.
It is that way. It's so difficult. We've gone there and picked up, I think it's 3 draws over the last 5 or 6 seasons there. But we've never won there. We're sitting rock bottom of the league, as you say, in outrageously poor form over the last 12 months in particular. It's very difficult to go and psych yourself up to go there and win a one-off cup tie. It's just a very, very difficult approach. But in terms of how we set up for the game, I'm going to imagine it'll see us go to a back 5,
Back 10.
a back 10. It'll operate more as a back 10, but on paper it might look like a back 5. Can you imagine anything differently to that?
Not at all. I imagine you'll see, depending on Mikey Devlin's fitness, he'll be in, Obalai will be in, Naughton will be in, Sean Kelly will probably be in, so Sangari will probably be in, Brandon, just put them all in. Just hopefully we'll defend the cross this time if we've just got 10 men in a box.
Do you reckon we can play 2 goalies?
I think just to make the tie interesting, they should let us. I think that would be just a entertainment aspect. Like, let's see what they can do with that. Fuck it, 3 goalies. I'll go in as well.
Yengi up top in his own with strict instructions, always
Nah,
track back.
he'll play Bruce and Kelly. So when it doesn't go well, that's then bombed at the team for another 4 weeks.
Yeah, as I say, it's very difficult to set yourself up, and it's very difficult to get a Dementor to show any sort of joy towards a
Thank
Scottish Cup
God,
quarter final.
thank God that we have a women's team who made it to the Scottish Cup. That's maybe the highlight of the season. Is just that I don't have to go to Parkhead this weekend because of the Scottish Cup tie. So, yeah.
But the game will be over in plenty of time to nip back up the road to watch it on Viaplay. Oh dear. But yeah, I really struggle to see us doing anything other than a back 5, as you kind of mentioned there. I'd imagine if Devlin's fit, he'll probably play. Obalai will probably play. I'd get Jamie Brandon probably as a wing back on one side, and if Christian again is fit, albeit he came off at the weekend in Perth, which with
Josh,
Christian's track,
I wouldn't even risk him.
yeah, it's probably in that bracket where is there a point risking him?
Yeah.
But
Mikey Devlin as well, I guess, in that boat. If Sean Donnellan's back, I wouldn't bother nothing more than like half an hour, to be honest with you. There's no point in stressing these players who could become a bit more prominent in our fixtures, like the return game against them when we play them at home in a couple of weeks' time. Probably better saving them for stuff like that. So yeah, let's put like Cal Hedingham in that out. Like let's put like Cal Hedingham, Andy Semple, and
Andy Semple. Wow. I have seen Andrew Semple kick a football, and I've never seen somebody look in more pain than Andrew Semple kicking a football. But there you go. That tells you the desperate times call for desperate measures. Right, let's go prediction. What are we going for?
4-0.
To Livy. That's interesting. 4-0 Livingston. Right, I'm locking that prediction in.
Basically, just follow. Was it 4-0 in the League Cup that we got put out by Rangers?
Yeah, 4-0, yeah.
Yeah, I'm just predicting basically the exact same game as that, but with a different side of the Ugly Sisters?
I'm going to go 3-0 to Celtic for clarity. But yeah, big weekend for the football club. 2 Scottish Cup quarter-finals, both for our men's and women's teams. Depending
Which is
on...
quite a big achievement as well, eh?
Yeah.
To think of that.
And
But we're just so depressed.
yeah, but hopefully if you're not able to make it along to the men's game, get yourselves along to Livi. If you've got your season ticket, you get in for nothing,
No.
I would assume. Or is it a cup tie because it's
A
paid
cup
for?
game.
But so there is a small cost, but it's certainly cheaper than going to Celtic Park. And if you are going along to Celtic Park, hopefully there's a major shock, but I can't envisage much of that happening at the weekend. But we can live in hope. That's it for this week's episode of Talk Livi. We really appreciate you tuning in every week and we'd love to hear your feedback. You can leave us a review on iTunes or drop us a message on Twitter, Facebook or Instagram.
As Euan said, we're on Twitter, Facebook and Instagram, so simply search for Talk Livi to find us. You'll find all the links to our weekly episodes on there as well. All our episodes are available on all the usual podcast streaming sites, including iTunes and Spotify. We're also on YouTube and we'd love for you to subscribe to the channel. If none of those options suit you, all you have to do is head to our website, talklivipodcast.libsyn.com, where you'll find every single episode we've done over the last few years.
That's it for this week. Thanks to all our listeners for tuning in as always. And let's hope for a monumental week following the Lothians' finest football team.
Yay!
Livingston, oh Livingston, we realize our vision. Livingston, oh Livingston, into the Premier Division. Livingston, Livingston, Livingston.